So like I said before, please, 3 rounds, 2 minutes. Last round has 1 minute. I know that these people here are amazing at speaking. You're an amazing audience, please. But then, if you want to contribute, or if you want to make noise, or if you want to be excited, please be excited. But note that if you are too excited and they run into their time is going, and we cannot be able to, get what we're looking for. So, how do I start? I'll start with the lady. Okay? So I'll do lady first, and then I'll just pick every other person randomly. So, first round, corruption and its effects. How it has affected society. You really need to highlight the ills of corruption and how it has directly affected you and directly affected society to the best of your knowledge. I'm talking to everybody now for this round. Okay, so audience, please listen. AY, you can now step forward as you would be starting the debates session. So, you have 2 minutes and your time starts now.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Ayo Aluko. Very quickly, I'm sure that everyone has an idea of what corruption is. And it's just the fact that there are practices in the country in every segment that are illegal. So any corrupt practice is illegal. So it is the embezzlement of funds, mismanagement of assets, and all of those things. But corruption in the country and how it has eaten deep. Political corruption is the one that we know very profoundly, is the one that is very obvious to the common man. What we call corruption is in politics. But we forget that there's corruption in the educational sector, there's corruption in agriculture, there's corruption in religion, there's corruption everywhere. Tribalism is corruption, favoritism is corruption. Everything that is corrupt is corruption. Thank you. Hallelujah. So how it has affected the Nigerian system, we find out that every Nigerian points to the leaders as the corrupt ones. But we forget that before they get there, they are Nigerians as well. They grew up in the same environment you did. They went to the same schools that you did. So it is very wrong to point accusing fingers at people when you give bribes, when you take bribes, when you mismanage people's assets. For instance, I have a personal principle that when you mismanage your boss's time, it's stealing, it's corrupt. When you are doing something you're not supposed to be doing during your work hours, it is corrupt, except if, of course, you don't have anything to do at that point. So how this can be curbed is, it starts from you, it starts from me. Do not mismanage. Stealing leads to corruption. Corruption is like the bloated version of stealing, of lying, and all of those things. Mismanagement of assets and funds. So how it can be curbed is by being honest. Integrity is a very important...
We've not asked you how it can be curbed yet. We've not asked you that.
Okay.
Keep going. We're talking about highlighting the ills, corruption.
I thought I was supposed to speak together.
Not yet.
Okay.
The time is up. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for AY. Thank you. Followed closely by Mentor Solomon. You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
Okay. What is corruption? I think that's the underlying question, because one of the things, what I've come to realize is that for us in Nigeria, corruption is a culture. And that's how deep I think, that's the impact I think it has now. It is a culture. It is a system of doing things that has been generally accepted over time. So if we want to say, okay, how do we define the corruption? We look at the different instances of its manifestation. So, for instance, someone is puts his... meritocracy is is relegated to the background in favor of nepotism or tribalism or any other benchmark for selecting people for positions. So, for instance, when we talk about the quota system, that's a manifestation of corruption being a culture. When we talk about national cake, so we have resources inordinately shared amongst the different regions, that's corruption. Because if we look at Nigeria itself, the constitution, the composition of Nigeria is an expression of corruption. So if we look at it from that standpoint, we begin to understand that for us to address corruption in Nigeria, it's a complete reacculturation, because I cannot tell my next neighbor not to settle the Lagos State guy who comes to disturb him when the Lagos State guy who comes to disturb him has the law on his side, a corrupt law that is backing him, and he can use that one to affect my business. So if you ask me, what is corruption? Corruption is the unfair distribution of wealth and opportunity. And
time is up. Thank you very much. Rounds of applause for him, please. Round of applause. Luckily, I had my dictionary with me because I had so many English words I don't know the meaning. Meritocracy. I want to know what that one means. Larry, please, you're next. You have 2 minutes, and your time starts now.
All right. I would like to see this from a different perspective. And the perspective is that one of the amazing things about corruption is a thought of self. Is that for everybody who is corrupt, they are not thinking about us. They are thinking about themselves. So first of all, corruption is a very big issue in the mind of the average Nigerian. So it means that there's something faulty in our thinking that makes a Nigerian corrupt. Now, the Nigerian mind, after the colonial masters left, we had our own politicians, we had our own prime ministers and all of those things. But you will realize that when we first of all started politics and we started to govern ourselves, we were thinking about our tribes. Political parties were based on tribes. They were based on the Fulani Hausa side, they were based on the Igbo side, they were based on the Igbo and then the Cameroonian side, and they were based on us on the west. So it was that when we started politics in the first instance, we were thinking about ourselves. We were not thinking about every other person. So it is easy for us to go there and pick up self-agendas rather than pick up national agendas. Now, if you look at the Nigerian system, the average Nigerian here doesn't know what Nigeria is pursuing. We don't. We have no clue of what we are as a people. But individuals know what they are going there to do. They come and tell us their party agendas. We have no clue of what those party agendas are doing. We have no clue of what the party agenda is doing to meet up with the Nigerian agenda. So you see that when we are talking about corruption, we are talking about people who are self-oriented. They are not national-oriented. And that's the first problem that we have as a country. Until we start a culture when people start to think about all of us together, then we are not yet a people going to any place. We will continue to deal with corruption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lanwe. I'd like to ask, are you a historian by chance? I want to repeat, yes, please. This round is corruption, its effect, and how it has affected society. Mr. Dele Asaju, please, you're up next. Your time starts now.
Okay, well, to me, I think corruption, to me, seems to be like injustice. And you can probably trace the background to, if you have, let's look at the fundamentals. If the family values are wrong, automatically it would affect societal values. That's where it starts from. And I'll give you a classical example. I had been in a position where I was the only Nigerian on a board. And I remember that the foreigners were telling me that we will not be giving the Nigerians an overtime. The normal work hour is 8 hours. If you stay more than 8 hours, they see it as a normal thing. That's the obtainable thing in their country. So I stood and said, no, that's wrong. My mother has taught me when I was growing up that, look, if you see wrong and you close your eyes, it is injustice, and that's a corrupt practice. So I can choose to leave it. And automatically what that one means is that there's a particular societal value at the workplace, which if I am on a higher level, if I shut my eyes to that, I would do that if I'm a president too. That's the truth. So it's a process. It's like a cadre. It moves up, and like that. So we need to look at the fundamentals, the family values. Like Ayo said, you're coming from a family. The family will transcend into EGA companies into a state into the presidency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, please, I'd like to say that speakers, you are free to either, buttress a point that your fellow speaker has made or totally counter before you start. It's allowed. Emmanuel Wachuku, please, your time starts now.
Okay. Corruption, start buttressing from Solomon's point. Corruption is unfair dealing with others. Corruption is lack of love. Corruption is selfishness. Corruption is thinking is about sharing without thinking there's something to produce before you share it. Because we think about national cake. Now, how do we get the cake on the table? So if everybody carries the knife and want to cut the cake, at the end of the day, we've been cutting this cake since 1960, right? Now, at the end of the day, is there still cake to cut? So if everybody is still carrying knife, wanting to cut cake, nobody is carrying what used to bake cake. Is it nobody is carrying the pans and all that? Let's even bake more cakes. There are more people. In 1960, I can't remember our population, but now we are heading towards 180 to 200 million, and we are still sharing the same cake. I think that is unfair. So somehow corruption has eaten into us, and it's causing a lot of problem. Let me not go more than my time. Thank you.
Okay, you still have time, but fine. That's not a problem. All right, second round. So at this juncture, we are talking how can we completely eradicate corruption. Please, I need the speakers to be more practical, right? Come down to our level. Some of us don't have dictionaries, what we have here are Bibles. So we need to understand exactly what you're saying. Use practical terms. So I would start the way I did before. AY. Your time starts now. 2 minutes again.
Okay, one of the ways that corruption can be curbed is by reviewing our laws. I'm a lawyer and I know that there are laws and there are a lot of loopholes. There are laws and there are escapes to the laws that are made. In Nigeria, we have the constitution that gives rights to every other law. Those people making the other laws have been given the power by the constitution to make the laws. But then a lot of laws favor individuals. They do not favor the national populace. So one of the ways we need to correct corruption is by reviewing our laws. So if you happen to get to the National Assembly someday, look forward to bringing out laws that would change the life of the average Nigerian youth. Another way is by ending impunity. You know, we need effective law enforcement agencies, not the police that takes 15 naira at every 20 kilometers, not the police that is willing to. Police are not debt recovery agents, but yet they go about helping people to collect their debts. They are not. One of the ways we need to correct corruption is by ending impunity. Another way is by being transparent. As individuals, we need to be accountable to one another. So when you become a leader, transparency and accountability would not be a problem for you. So we need to we need to be more transparent. Then again, my final point is that we need to build more institutions, reformed institutions that would give back and empower the Nigerian society. Most of the institutions we have right now are empowering international bodies. They are empowering individuals in the corridors of power. They are not empowering us. So one of the ways that we need to correct corruption is by doing these things. And we need to stand against corruption. That's, I think, one of the most important things. When you see something that is corrupt, when you see something that is unfair, we need to stand against it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just at the nick of time. Yes, Mr. Solomon, please.
Okay, I don't know how practicable this is, but I think that that's the way we can solve the corruption problem. First and foremost, we need to realign how Nigeria looks. We cannot say that we want to fight corruption if we still have a central government that takes 53% of the natural resources. There's a sharing culture, and it's what Patutome called the booty sharing syndrome, where all the money goes to the center, and then to ensure compliance with the desires of the center now gives out pittance to the different states, to the different sub-federating units. So if we're going to address corruption, first we need to break down or restructure our federalism and return to a system that ensures that the regions are producing their own wealth and providing a tax to the center, but they are in control of their own resources. That's first. Two, we need to change, there's a natural reorientation process that needs to happen. And that can probably not happen in my generation, may not happen in my children's generation either. Because there's a mindset that's already been entrenched that when I get there, I need to take care of my family, I need to take care of my people, and that needs to go. But that can only go if we change our structure. Like Larry said, our foundations has been built on ethnicism, and that is the root of corruption. Because if you look at the activities, the economic policies of the AWOs, the economic policies of the ZICs, they favored a regional a region-centric means of economic development, and that cannot work. So if we are going to get us up and running, first, We need to change our federalism structure. Second, we need to change our constitution. And thirdly, we need to do a serious national reorientation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Region-centric. That's a new word. Okay. Larry, let's have you.
All right, so my charge is actually going to be to the Christian body. So forgive me if I think that the only people who can actually save us are actually the Christians. Forgive my thoughts. It's just a personal thought that I have. I strongly believe that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Even scripture asks us to guard our hearts jealously because that's where the wellspring of life actually comes from. I think that for us to actually get over corrupt a lifestyle that we have built in Nigeria, we need renewed minds. We need minds that have been transformed. We need minds that can pick up value systems and perceptions that are consistent with a growing life. Even scripture says in Romans, it says that be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The truth is this: if we Christians don't go out there with the values that we have, get into all the institutions that we have in Nigeria, we are going to continually sing this hymn and this blues and rhythm of corruption. It's never going to stop. Because the truth is that we cannot expect from the world what the world does not have. We cannot expect the world to give us a governance that they don't have. The average human mind is corrupt. The average human mind is selfish and thinks about himself. Forget about it. It's not just going to happen. So we need people to actually go out there and do something. Don't shine all the lights that you have got in the church. The light and the salt you are is of the earth. So you need to go outside. You need to get into education institutions. You need to get into the political institutions. You need to get into the entertainment institutions. If not, we are going to continue to dance Zanku in church and you are going to complain about it. Because nobody is actually bringing up anything. We need to get into the sporting industries. We need to get into the commercial industries.
Thank you very much. Go out there and do something. What are we going to do? Fight? Dele Ashanti, please.
Okay. The solution will still, come down to family values. It will still come back to family values. When we're growing up, I grew up in a poverty-subjected area. But my growing up years, my mom still told me that, look, of course, I didn't grow up with a father. My mom still told me that you need to love people, even despite that fact that you don't have it. Where is the place of moral instructions that they used to teach us in school then? I want to say what Pastor Tony Bakari said one day. He said, Omo yo shagbafo, onka showale, erujuli. The same person that is not a washerman, that is bringing clothes home, and the mom pats him on the back. When he gets to the national cake, he takes everything and brings the cake home. You even cut anything. So it boils down to family values. It's a fundamental. You cannot advance a solution without assessing the problem. The problem is with the family. It's a choice. See, the policies are good. The laws are good. Okay, I want to start down. Why do you think J.J. Rawlings decided to kill everybody when Ghana was corrupt? Because you see, you can't change them. It's in them. It's inbuilt. But gradually, when you, imbibe these family values, and children grow up with that, they begin to face these things out gradually. And also, even when you get to, whatever level you are in right now, at least we all know an Akuni, I'm a dollar. So you can still be relevant in wherever you find yourself, despite corrupt practice. It's a choice. It's a choice.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We have it already in our midst. Do we kill all Nigerians? Mano Wachuku, please.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let me come from a different angle. I think we have a problem of yardstick in this country. We tend to measure mediocrity with mediocrity. What we hear around here is what these ones do in their regime. Now, in school, we all know that pass mark starts from 40%, right? Then you get to 70%, which is A. Now, we are hearing around 8%. Okay, you were 7%, and now I am 8%. The other time, that is a yardstick problem. And I think if we can address yardstick problem, how we measure performances, is going to help us a lot in addressing corruption. I hear your president talk about someone who was caught on camera doing something, and then he's telling you that he doesn't know how much technology that had gone into. Are we daft? Well, okay, our president. Okay, so I also want to agree with Brother Dele Ashaju. Family is very important. Family values. Now, I don't know what people teach their words in these modern times, but the way I see children act these days, you know that these ones, tomorrow, they are going to become worse than what we have today. That is the problem. Okay, so we are also going to go back to the family and address that. And of course, the parents, or before you decide to become a parent, you should have some orientation on how you want to raise these people you're going to bring into this world. And then maybe when you raise them, they will go to their schools and they will go to their churches and wherever they find themselves, and then let that have a multiplier effect on the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're out of time. I'm sure we've learned one or two things. I don't want to talk too much. We will bake more cakes, but not for sharing. Hallelujah. And would hopefully eradicate corruption completely. Thank you so much to our panelists for coming. We appreciate you so much. Okay. And we're done.